Welcome to Grand Rock Warehouse and welcome to part 15 in our Grand Funk series. Our special guest tonight, Mark Farner. He's here for an interview. We're here to talk Grand Funk. We're here to talk about the new album, Closer to Home, that drops November 8th. So DC's here, I'm here, let's do it.
Grant is changing the world one track at a time on Grand Rock Warehouse.
Welcome to Grand Rock Warehouse, and tonight we have a special guest. Well, we have DC here, but we also have a Mr. Mark Farner here tonight. This is the finale in our Grand Funk series. This is episode 15. And if anybody has been following this series for a year, we've been going over every Grand Funk album in the catalog and reviewing it and talking about it. And the link's down below. Check it out. But for our final episode, we have Mr. Mark Farner here, and tonight we're going to talk about Mark's new album that's going to be released on the 8th, correct?
Yes.
9th. It's the 9th. Sorry.
No,
this Friday.
That's the 8th?
Yeah, the 8th. Yeah. So it'll be out Friday. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little Grand Funk now. And Mark, welcome to the show. Glad you could be here on this monumental episode.
Yeah. Me too. And from the sounds of it, you guys, 15. Wow, man.
Yeah, Mark, give some background here into how this all began. I'm an older cat, much older than Grant, and we've been doing shows on Grant's Rock Warehouse for a while, and Grand Funk Railroad and Mark Farner continues to come up in my conversation on these shows. Grant was a young pup during the heyday of Grand Funk Railroad. So he's saying, well, I've heard a couple of those songs on the radio when I was a youngster. Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to have to really guide this guy. That's almost like being a musical missionary and bring him the gospel of Grand Funk Railroad and Mark Farner. So where is the nexus in all of this? Right. Well, both Grant and I are also huge Todd Rundgren fans. So I'm thinking I could probably best bring Grant into the whole Grand Funk vibe history with those Rundgren produced albums. Yeah. So that was where we started with American Band and Shining On. And then we've kind of hop, skipped, and jumped back and forth depending on where we left off in a conversation with the previous show. So we did start out with the Todd Rundgren produced albums.
All right. Well, thank you.
So we're coming in it kind of backwards.
Yeah, man.
The thing is, Mark, we didn't realize that this was going to be an ongoing series. DC's just trying to turn me on to the band, and now, for me in the 80s, though, our paths have crossed once. 1984, you played the Songbird Center in Mansfield, Ohio. It was our band, Tall Water opened, and then it was Willie Phoenix, and then it was Rosie, which is another band from Columbus, and then it was you, and then it was Donnie Iris. And it was outdoor festival, and I remember we were sitting in the lawn, and they kind of wished you in, and you went up and did your set.
Yeah.
But we were the opening. I was in the opening band for you guys.
Bless your heart. I appreciate it.
But that was that was 84 though. Now I can't remember, Mark, if it was the Mark Farner, but what would have it been in 84? Would it just been you? Would it have been Mark Farner band? What would it have been?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Everybody loved him.
F.
Yeah. So anyway, our paths have crossed. So
all right. Well, thank you for that, Grant.
So, but the thing is that I really didn't pay much attention to Grand Funk in high school. Everything, music changes. Grand Funk was off the radar by that time for my age group. Now, DC grew up in it, and I really didn't pay much attention other than the hits that I've heard. And DC thought it would be a crime that I didn't know this stuff. So
we couldn't let Grant go any further in his life without being truly turned on to Grand Funk Railroad.
He turned me on.
Believe me, Mark, I've been waiting for this moment since 1970. And now that I've got a chance, I want to personally thank you for the music and all the joy that music has brought to me in my life all these years. Grand Funk and solo. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate you mentioning that.
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
we did start with the Todd Rundgren era material, and Grand Funk went through all different kinds of phases, and you guys were smart enough to move with the times, because post Terry Knight era, there was a bit of transition with that Phoenix album, but FM radio wasn't what it was in the earlier days as we moved through the mid 70s, and you guys went for more of a pop rock approach. There was still that Grand Funk, what you guys started out with in all the music. It was just altered a bit, and who better than at the time Todd Rundgren to kind of help usher you guys into your new incarnation, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was a blast to work with, and we all had the respect for one another. And Todd, man, he would, push the red button on that 24 track and come right out into the studio with us. And he grabbed the tape head on my Echoplex and ran it from one end to the other on locomotion. It made it sound like the guitar was eating itself. It was,
Exactly. And Mark, I have a question along the lines of the locomotion. Now,
I knew he was going to talk about this. Go
now
ahead.
the story goes, you came back from lunch and were coming back into the recording studio, the swamp, and you were singing the song "The Locomotion," which was a natural, if you want to put a single out, with a group called Grand Funk Railroad. And Todd seemed like he didn't know, he wasn't familiar with that song. That's kind of shocking.
How does he not know Little Eva? Come on, Todd. Come on.
Exactly. Well, when I came around the corner, I started singing before I could see the guys. I could hear them. They were out in the parking lot of the studio. We were taking a break. I went across the street to the farm for lunch, and on my way back, I started singing, but I couldn't see those guys. I knew they were out there having a smoke or something, because every break we went outside, and we was either shooting guns or doing something outside, taking a swim in the pond. I mean, outside. So I start singing, and I hear those guys, "Come on, baby, do the locomotion." So as I walk around the corner, I'm still singing, and Rundgren walks out the end of the building, and he holds his hands up like, and he says, "What the hell is that?" I said, "What the hell is that? That's a locomotion. That's Little Eva. You He says, "You guys get your asses in here because we're going to record the locomotion." And it was that quick, and we ran it down, and he gave him a quick 5-minute tour. We were recording that thing, man. It was great. It was just nothing but a party, dude.
What a moment.
So was it?
Again, everything comes together just perfectly on that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about that whole early period, because I was always under the impression that really, okay, this is the way I see it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. When Todd came on the scene, he was able to take the material. I think Shining On and We're American Band are absolutely both brilliant. I think that's the peak. Now, some people may not think that, but I think what Todd, I don't know if it was just the chemistry, if it was just a good time, the band was in a good place. Because when I hear it, it seems like you guys are firing on all cylinders. I think Todd knew exactly what to do with the material. Yeah, he was able to mold it into something. How do I want to put it, Mark? It just seems, I don't want to say more thought out, but it just seems like the material on those records just seems like this is the way these tracks should be. Yeah. The chemistry between you and Rundgren and what he brought into the band, I think, was wonderful. Yeah. And maybe you guys were in a good spot. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we had the mutual respect, Grant, and that going into any session with any producer, man. If that ain't happening, the session ain't going to be happening. You got to have that. And we had it for him. And we didn't know how he felt about us until we got together. And he showed his affection to us and his respect to us. And I knew that it was going to be good. I just knew, it's, it's
Yeah.
like what you're saying, Grant, that it was some kind of, chemistry that it was instamatic. When we hit together, it was like, all right, this is going to rock.
Yeah.
This is the way I look at the band. I think now this might be controversial. Maybe I see it this way. I think you guys got better as you went along.
Thank you.
Because we're American Band. What, that like the 9th record or something? 7th, somewhere in there. Okay.
It's
Look at you guys. Not many bands, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm trying to say not many bands had a lifespan like that in the 70s.
Yeah.
You got the fact that you were making your best albums later in the career. I mean, DC and I looked at the Frank Zappa album. I don't know how you look at it now, but we reviewed it and we love that record. I think you guys got better. And I just wanted to say that. Some people may disagree with me, but the Zappa record's great.
Yeah,
we should bring up Zappa. How was that whole experience working with Frank?
Well, that's that respect thing, Grant. We had heard through the grapevine that he was not taking drugs and he didn't drink or, he didn't do anything except excessive coffee.
He smoked like a chimney too, didn't he?
He smoked like a broken stove, brother. And but the coffee, he would, he had one of them air pots you push down.
Okay, yeah.
It comes out, it's a thermos. And I swear to you, he's going along, and every once in a while he's got to look down in there. And it's over on a producer desk. And when it gets about halfway gone, he sends the engineer over to brew another pot.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, he had it, he knew when it was going to run out. And so he had some fresh going in there, keep him going.
Mm-hmm.
And he drank more coffee than any 10 people ought to. In fact, that boy make a cup of coffee nervous.
Holy crap.
He sounds a little bit like me, Mark. I consume way too much coffee on a daily basis. It is my only vice.
Yeah.
He did, things differently than the way Todd did it, but I think what he did with that record, I think it's right up there.
And I don't think Todd Rundgren nor Frank Zappa, even though it's a paying gig to produce, are going to want to take on a band unless they had the utmost respect for you guys. And I've watched a lot of the interviews you've been doing lately, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For the majority of us that know anything about the genre of rock and roll music, you guys are already there. And I think you brought up a good point about Terry Knight keeping you guys the mystique of Grand Funk Railroad early on. Number two, I will say a thought of mine is that you guys circumvented the music paradigm and got through because the people loved you. You didn't have to go through the critics to get to the people. And I think in some ways they kind of resented you guys' success going around the system. So, I mean, it's just ridiculous doesn't even describe you guys not being there yet, because everyone knows what a sham and how political the whole deal is. So, I mean, among the fans, you guys are already there. Right. What a treasure trove of material you put together in the band and also in your solo career, including having success in contemporary Christian genre. I mean, all the way through, Mark. Solid.
Yeah, man. That's what it's. God is love, and that's what I embrace love, and that's what I serve. That's who I serve, is love. And from here on out, brothers, I ain't gonna serve no other master, because love takes us from this bone suit we're standing in. When we expire, when that body passes on, then that spirit that's in here driving this son of a bitch, that spirit, man, is going home, dude.
Yeah, that's all that remains in the end, Mark, is love. Yep.
Amen, brother.
And we've been skipping around. I'm going to skip
We're
one
keeping
more
it loose,
time.
Mark. Keeping it
This
loose.
is just how the 14 shows went
Good.
from album early on, late in the career. The Phoenix album. Now, you guys had separated from Tearing Night, and I was just curious as to your songwriting. Some of the songs on that album have a country flair to them. Were you guys wanting to? Did the songwriting start before you got to Nashville, or did Nashville have that kind of influence on your songwriting, what you decided to record there?
Plus, we were wondering about, why did you go to Nashville to record?
It was we knew people that in Nashville and we didn't know where we wanted. We wanted to get someplace that we could drive to, and wasn't going to be New York City or L.A. And we knew people in Nashville that could set it up for us and knew good studio, because we're the musicians. We know jack shit about who's got a good studio or whatever. We've always taken people's reference, their word, so that we ended up in a good spot. And when you have producers like Frank and Todd, they have the recommendations. They have what studio they're going to use in mind. So we didn't have no strain there. But when it was our first embarkation, and we just said, okay, man, we know people in Nashville. At least we could get a decent studio. And all the Nashville people, they cut all those Nashville acts. So if you heard something that was country sounding, it'd be no small thing. I mean, because if you're cutting in a country city like Nashville, some of that might get onto it.
As a youngster in this album here, and before I put it on the turntable, I'm looking here and I'm seeing the listing of what everybody's playing. And I, of course, know the three of you, and then we get, of course, Craig Frost, who was added, and then I see and Doug Kershaw electric fiddle.
Yeah.
What is going on here? But it works. It's great. Yeah. Flight of the Phoenix, you guys and your abilities with instrumentals as well doesn't get touted enough. But you guys always seem to intersperse a instrumental or two as you went along. They're great.
Yeah, it's part of the game. But Doug Kershaw, man, when he came in, he's playing. We're up in the control room, and Kershaw's out there, in the studio, and all of a sudden, Kershaw is gone. We can't see him, but we can hear him. He's still playing. Mm-hmm. He's still playing. So I go over to the window and I look out there. Kershaw's laying on his back in the middle of the studio, playing his part with the microphone down there. He had his buddy that came with him adjusted the microphone so he could lay on his back in the studio and play this thing. It was crazy.
So great. And it's something that initially you might think, how in the world are they going to work electric fiddle in the Grand Funk Railroad? It works. It works. It's great.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Don't forget, John Lennon used to do his vocals laying down quite a bit. Did you ever do that, Mark? Just sing when you're laying down?
No, I've laid down and done setups before I did vocals.
There you go.
To get my diaphragm, warmed up. Because when you're huffing on a high note, man, your gut is like pulling, as you're pushing a note out. It's like, yeah. It's like,
all right, I have a question. It's going back in a time machine. I know we're jumping all over, but I have a question about this record.
Cherry Night in the Pack. Yeah, man.
Now, you're on this record, you're doing vocals and you're playing bass.
Yes.
But are you in the band? Or you're not on the cover, are you?
I'm not on the cover, but Herm Jackson, the guy in the way back with the light colored hair next to Bobby.
Oh, yeah. Right here. Oop, right here. Oops.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, there it is. He got drafted. He was the bass player,
Mhm.
and got drafted. So I had already done the artwork for this album. I can't come in at the last minute, and I played on it. I sang on that album,
Mhm.
but I was not. There was no picture of me anywhere.
Yeah, because you're on the second picture on the second album. What year is this? Is this 66?
I believe it was.
God, you were just a baby.
Yeah, dude.
So was this your first experience in like in a recording studio, or had you been in any kind of? I just love the way people start out. And did you have any other studio experience prior to this, or were you on any like 45s or any other
Went
bands
to,
prior to this?
I went to Chicago and I cut a commercial for the Curtis Candy Company. It was for Butterfinger. Surprise! Surprise! What opens up your eyes, Butterfingers? The surprise is what's inside. And then this kid opens his locker in school,
Yeah.
and this cartoon elephant sticks his head out of the kid's locker. The surprise is what's inside. When it pops out, dude. Every time that played, I got $35.
Oh, nice.
That's not bad. The world of advertising
And-
is
and
quite
it all-
lucrative, isn't it,
And it
Mark?
all started there, folks.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, just touching on commercials a bit. Um, you guys, I noticed closer to home on Ford trucks, that commercial that ran for a good long while.
Yeah.
Am I remembering correctly? Was it Ford trucks using closer to home?
Yeah, man. I think it was Sierra, GMC Sierra.
Oh, GMC. I was watching a little NFL football yesterday, and they went from game to commercial, and segueing through, they played you guys' version of Some Kind of Wonderful. Now, during the time when you record it and the music is released, that's one thing. But how do you feel all these years later? If you're sitting there watching that, all of a sudden your music shows up in the most unexpected place. That's got to be very satisfying that the music stands the test of time.
Yeah, man. And what was it? There was a mayonnaise commercial too that used Some Kind of Wonderful. It was one of those Kraft or Hellman's or one of the mayonnaise. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We're skipping along. You guys regrouped in the early 80s. And when we did our show on those two 80s albums, we thought they were very good albums, but the response from our audience was through the roof. I mean, we had no idea there was so much love for those two 80s albums. It kind of surprised us when you say Grant, because we knew we'd get good response from your period in the 70s, but these 80s albums got a lot of love on
People
those
loved
shows
it.
as well.
I didn't think people really knew these very well, but we got great response.
Awesome.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Hopefully we turned some people on to them. I don't know. We did a couple. We did, what did we do, DC? We played like some of the we played tracks off of here. Okay, so what we did, Mark, on one of the episodes is that we kind of went through this and we picked out certain tracks. I can't monetize because someone else is making money off of it, but just to get these records out there, just so people could hear them,
Yeah, man.
we would play like a couple of songs from each record and then talk about them. So hopefully we can turn more people on to those. And these are both great records. Well, we talked a little bit. Do you have anything else right off? Well, we should probably talk about this new record that's coming out.
Let's get to the new album.
Thank you.
So the new record, I've went through all the tracks. I've checked. Awesome.
There you go.
There it is. And I must say, Mr. Farner, you sound wonderful.
Thank you.
Tracks are accessible. The production, Mark. We want to talk a little bit about Mark Slaughter. How did his work on this record? The record sounds wonderful.
He is wonderful. He's got a set of ears, but the biggest part about Slaughter is his heart. He's a serious dude. If he is your ally, then your enemies better run.
It's nice to have people like that in your corner, for sure.
Oh man, you ain't kidding. And we really started our relationship at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp in New York City. David Fishoff, who is the proprietor of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, came to me and he says, "Hey man, Howard Stern called me today and he would like to have you come over to the studio and do I'm Your Captain on his show." And I said, "Do you mean like does he want me to do it acoustic or does he want it with a band?" He says, "Hell no, man. I take the fantasy band over there." And Kip Winger was in the camp. Of course, Kip is great on bass and one hell of a singer. Sandy Gennaro from Joan Jett's band on drums, Teddy Zigzag from Guns N' Roses on keyboard, Bruce Kulick on acoustic guitar, Mark Slaughter on second, me on first, and we went over and did it. But while we were in the green room, and I know you guys know what the green room's all about, so we're in the green room waiting, and we're on deck. We're going to go out there and blast this. But I'm playing a little bit. And I'm playing one of the songs that ended up on this album. It's called "Oh Darlin'," and but at the time, Slaughter came over. He says, "What is that song you're playing right there?" I said, "It's called "Oh Darlin'," and he says, "Man, I would love to work with you on that. I would love to be involved with you on that." And this is years ago, you guys. I didn't even think about until we had done this show. I didn't think about him as a producer. I knew he was a performer and a hell of a nice guy, and everybody loved him. But when we did the show together, I heard him singing the harmonies. "Am I in my cabin dreaming?" And he's hitting that second. "Am I in my cabin dreaming?" He's hitting it beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm looking over at him going, we're this far apart, and so I can hear it good. And after I said, "Dude, I didn't know you could sing because you're one of them you could hit that stratospherical stuff." I said, "But man, you were hitting, the pitch was perfect, the intonation, the match, I said, "Man, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for doing that." He says, "I'm going to send you something. I want you to give it a listen." So he sent me some files, and it was some music that he'd been working on. And I called him up. I liked it so well, I wasn't going to just email him back or text him or something. I wanted to talk to him about it. So I said, "Brother, who produced this?" He said, "I produced it." I said, "Oh, shit, man, that is good production." Because in the stereo half pie that's out there in front of us, I could point to where the guitar was. I could point to where the bass was. And the round of drums, when the mount toms and the floor toms, it was like do 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 do. It was moving and it was very good. The separation on everything was wonderful, and I was just enthralled with it. And I told him, I said, "Man, that's some good production." And he said, I want to produce you. I want to produce what you do next." I said, I mean, that was music to my ears because I already love this guy. Now I'm hearing what he's doing production wise with his stuff, and it sounded great. And I said, "Man, when do we start?" We started communicating, sending files back and forth. When we finally got together at his studio in Tennessee, we started laying stuff down. But he's a touring musician. I'm a touring musician. And when he takes off for a couple of weeks and then comes back, then I go for a couple of weeks and come back and say, so it took 2 years to do it, but it was actually good time. You could sit and listen to things and go, by the time he came back and we were ready to record again, I say, "Hey, what about trying this? This here didn't sound right to me. What about doing this?" And so we massaged this thing. He would do the same thing. "How about doing this? Let's try this here." And we work good together because we have the ultimate respect and the ultimate love for each other. And and when you work with somebody that is genuine, he is a down to earth, not raised up at all in his head. He is a prince, of the common man. I love him. He's a great guy.
Well, we love this new album, Mark, and it's like what you have carried through in your career as a songwriter, for me, the top three criteria is you make people think, you make people feel, and you also can cause people to shake their ass. Not necessarily all in the same song. Those qualities are here on this new album. You've got a lot on your mind about the state of humanity, the state of this country, and it comes through, but you touch on other things too. I mean, it's a very well-rounded album with different approaches and different subject matter, but we could see that you've got a lot on your mind, and you get your message out clearly, and I tend to be on the same page as you, so I'll just throw that out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
God gave me this talent that I've got, and I want to increase the investment that God gave, because God is love, man. Love gave me what I have, and I want to give it back to love, man, because I will serve no other master. Love is it. It's the ultimate master. And anything else that comes along and wants me to salute it, it can go piss up a rope. Seriously. And just picture that.
As Grant mentioned before, your vocal chops, you haven't missed a beat. The vocals are outstanding. I've always loved your guitar playing. Your guitar playing is just as good as it always was. The leads on these songs are very well thought out, and they really lock into the music just right. So, boom, 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 home runs all the way. There's a song that we wanted to talk a bit about is Tiny Fingers, which I know you have had this song in you were planning on recording it for a long time, just had never gotten around to it. It's very emotional subject matter, so we certainly understand that. It pretty much wraps around the father's hopes of a newborn baby, newborn son in your case, and then also the sense of loss with you having lost your other son, was it 2015 or whatever? And you can feel the emotion on this track. And the fact that there's only two people on this track, and your friend Jim, I don't remember his last name on
Jim
keyboards.
Ojibwe.
No, it's Jim.
Oh, sorry.
Paul Ojibwe.
Paul Ojibwe, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But both of you have experienced the worst of the worst that a dad can go through. I mean, just the nightmare scenario among nightmare scenarios. It comes through in the listening to this song. So hats off for getting around and recording it. And it is very emotional, and you can feel it, Mark. So well done.
I appreciate it so much. Yeah, it was hard to get it done. When I knew, I was going to do it, I was just sitting there playing it in the studio, picked up an acoustic, and Slaughter goes, "What's that?" And I said, "It's called Tiny Fingers." And he asked me about it, and I told him, I said, "Man, I wrote this years and years and years ago." And, I did it in a sound check once in North Carolina. We're playing a biker gig, and we went to do a sound check, check our instruments and get everything. Then the gig was, 6-7 hours later, but I went to sound check, and I was done early because my guitar sounded great to me. So I walked up to the microphone. I'm getting the mic set into the monitors, and I just start playing it. And the band had never heard me play this song before. Nobody heard me play this song because it was so hard for me to sing it.
Mm-hmm.
I just never did it, but I sang it, just me playing my guitar, and these bikers start coming down out of the hills and walking up towards the stage, and pretty soon you got 100 or 150 bikers standing there, and they're loving it. Tears are coming down the faces and the thumbs up, it's like they loved that song. And Paul Ojibwe, he was my keyboard player back then, and he goes, "What the hell was that song, Farner?"
Mm-hmm.
I told him it's Tiny Fingers, and he says, "You got to record that." Well, it wasn't till, years and years and years later, you guys, that Paul's daughter died. And I told him every time he'd get on my ass, man, when are you going to do that song? When are you going to do Tiny Fingers? I said, you don't know how hard it is to sing that. And he says, I heard it that one time, man, and I'm telling you, the world needs to hear it. And I didn't know that his daughter was going to die. Of course, he didn't. But once his daughter passed, and I'm sitting there playing at Slaughter's studio, and Slaughter goes, man, that we got to do that song, but it's got to be just a keyboard and acoustic guitar, because I was playing it on his acoustic. He said, it's got to be acoustic and keyboards. That's it. And your voice. And that's it, because he knew that that was an emotional thing for me. I was having a little bit of a hard time singing it.
Oh, understandable. My God.
Well,
Yeah.
it's very emotional, but it's got quite an impact. I will say that.
And Mark, just think about everybody that's hearing your new album and that song, those bikers that reacted when you were playing those years back, everywhere across this country and this world, when they're listening to that song, going to be affecting so many hearts. And that's got to be a good feeling as a songwriter, musician, to have that kind of impact in people's lives, that they can draw from that emotion, that feeling from the heart and everything. So truly a gift. And
it is satisfying. And I look at it as a talent. I know a lot of people, can relate to this, but not everybody has musical talents. Some people have the plumbing talents. Some people have, roofers talents, and some people have computer talents, and some people. I mean, there's talents, people with talents all over, and not necessarily gifts. So I like to look at it as a talent, and it is God given, love given, and I want to increase that gift with more love coming from this talent, to give it back to love, and start that snowball rolling down the hill and pick up the souls as it's going by, man.
Yep. We all do our thing and the world goes around, and we all contribute in our own way to help us through these years, and as you like to say, this bone suit.
Yeah.
So we all kick in what we can do.
Yeah. I want to say, though, listening to this record, the guitars on here sound absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Are you still playing? I'm DC. I have to get guitar oriented real quick. I have to ask.
Go to it.
You still what are you playing on that record? Different guitars, or are you playing that Parker? I know you were playing that Parker for a long time.
I'm playing. It's a new Parker. I call her Betty. She's blue. There's a picture of Betty on the back.
Yeah, I'll put that photo. I've got that. I'll put that photo in so everybody can see it.
My mother, God rest her soul, she got me into playing guitar when I was 15 years old. On my 15th birthday, she got me 6 lessons and rented an acoustic guitar to get me started. So I wanted to give her, some attention and the thanks, because she's in heaven right now, and I know that she would appreciate me naming this guitar, and she's my love, Betty.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a special soul, and I had Pariah pickups out of Canada. He hand wired the pickups out of Betty, because Betty's a 93, and that's when Parker got into business. And it's she's like 5 pounds, but there's no whammy bar on Betty. It's a solid hardtail, they call it, hardtail mahogany unit, covered in that carbon fiber. And she's just got a special heart and special soul. When I got the pickups in her and I hit them first notes, I'm going, oh shit, yes, oh yes, oh yeah, man.
That was it. That's all it took.
Oh,
I know.
man.
What
Funny, with a musician, there are a few instruments in your life that just that immediacy. Oh, this is the right one. Much like the guitar that Steve Marriott sold you and that you used on E Pluribus Funk, which is my favorite of the early.
What guitar was that?
All right.
What did he sell you? What guitar was it?
SG. It was they called it a TV model, Grant. It was
the SG TV. They're yellow, kind of yellowish color.
yeah.
Right?
It had the headstock was broken off, and somebody JB welded that thing back on.
It was Frankenstein.
I had a
Funkin'.
but I know exactly what you're talking about because I had a 1961 Gibson Les Paul Jr. in that yellow color that I sold Rick Nielsen when back in '86. But their headstock wasn't broken. But it needed a fret job though. But I hope Rick Nielsen still has it. But yeah.
But the great thing about the Flies is they got stainless steel frets, and you'll never wear the fret down.
You never have to get a fret job.
Nope.
I know this is another giddy question, but do you still have the micro frets guitar?
Right back here.
Oh, there it is.
On top of that, Leslie. On top of that 145
That's
Leslie.
iconic. What about those old West amps that you didn't you used to work in the West factory?
Yes, I did. I did circuit boards. I soldered on the circuit boards. I did the cabinetry, sunk these D140s and D130s into the cabinets. And I loved it because every time we would get a 15-minute break, we were on the drum kit and these West amps, and we're trying all this stuff out, man. And Dave West, he loved it to see it.
That had a lot to do with your sound back in the day on those early Grand Funk albums.
Absolutely, man. And with that messenger right there, and that's in serious need of a fret job, but I won't let anybody touch that thing.
No. You're better off leaving it as it is. Let me ask you this. Hang on, DC, because I'm just guitar geekiness. What was it about those West amps were they loud? Was it the tone? What was it about those that you liked back in the day?
It was the tone because with the 15-inch speaker, see, everybody was using 12s, or some people were using 10s, and they had a 412 cab or two 412 cabs, but they were not shaking pant legs, man. You needed a 15-inch speaker to make your pant legs move.
Well, it's like the dual showman.
Yeah.
I mean, think of Dick Dale playing through those dual showmans and his reverb unit. I saw Dick Dale like in the 90s, Mark, playing at, you probably played here at it used to be the Agora in Columbus, Ohio, and then it changed to the Newport. But anyway.
Yeah, I remember
playing there. He had his reverb unit hanging off the floor and playing through those dual showmans that he probably had for years. And you could feel, Dick Dale. I mean, come on. It was Dick Dale.
Yeah.
I mean, a monster. You could feel it. So going through 15s, man, I can understand what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
But that had a lot to do with the way you guys sounded.
Mark, that classic guitar that we've been talking about, I know you're familiar with the video that's on YouTube and all the reactions to very early 1960 Grand Funk Railroad doing Inside Looking Out. Mm-hmm. And what an amazing performance that is. And that just shows the synergy the three of you guys had. It's plain as day when you see the three of you playing that tune. You're in each other's heads, and it is so tight and so in the pocket. And that's why it's such a damn shame all that has shaken out between the three of you. You guys are still with us. You guys all still have your chops at that top level. Oh, if only, Mark.
Mark, you've made DC's day. You know that.
Since 1970 for this.
I know, it's great.
Well, I got to tell you, Daryl, I have for 24 years trying to get those guys to go out and give the fans what neither one of us can give the fans separately.
Yeah.
There's only 3 people in the world that can make that noise, period. I don't care how good a guitar player they put in there. I don't care how good a singer ain't gonna sing like me, ain't gonna play guitar like me. It ain't gonna be funky like we are when we are the original three guys in the rest.
Well, I do have to say, Mark, when you added Craig Frost, I think that opened things up.
Live, especially.
When you listen to those live albums, with Craig on them, I mean, you guys are a machine. I don't think Craig gets enough due, but I think his work on those or on the Grand Funk albums, on the live stuff,
Yeah.
I think he was important in the band. I think he was great. Plus, freed you up just to play guitar, right?
Yeah, man. And on Black Licorice, man.
Oh
Live.
my God! Don't get me started on Black Licorice.
Oh, yes, we do.
Go ahead, talk about it, Mark. I want to hear about it. Go ahead. What about it?
Yeah, man. Craig Frost, man.
A monster.
Yeah. I think we were in Japan playing, and they have a live footage on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Craig is just on it. He was part of the drum kit, man.
It's all locked in. It's just top shelf.
Was he in the? How did you know Craig? Was he just part of in the area? Was he just in Flint or what?
Yeah, he was from Flint, and he was in the pack just prior to us turning into Grand Funk Railroad. But we were out east, and we got hung up with a storm that kept us out there a couple of weeks longer than we were supposed to be. And this is before there were any cell phones or anything like that. And we were hanging out in cottages, freezing our asses off on Cape Cod. Everything, the pipes froze, everything froze. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't get that.
And when we got back to Flint, Craig's wife threatened to divorce him, and Kenny Rich's wife, same deal. So those guys had to quit the band, and that's when Brewer and I started Grand Funk. I said to him, we got to get a bass player. We need to do a three-piece, get a bass player that's not married and doesn't even have a girlfriend, man.
It's not, that's a good.
No, that's not bad advice right there.
Not bad advice.
And Mark, you addressed the whole situation with Don and Mel with the first song that leads off the new album with Anymore. And you've just taken all that burden off of your heart, and whatever happens from here on end, because that'll wear you down for the years if you harbor that anger and bitterness and everything. Hey, you've made more than a few overtures, and you've been the one that's extended the invitation and the wanting to get the three of you guys back together. And that's all that you could do at this point. Yeah. And also on that front, I was watching an interview you had done, and you mentioned that you like the music of Hall & Oates. Are you aware of Daryl Hall's show, Daryl's House?
Oh, I've seen some of the episodes. Few people.
I think if your management reached out to Daryl, he would love to have you on the show. And I would love to hear you and Daryl trading off on your hits. You take a verse, Daryl takes a verse. I think that's a real winner. I think he would be very receptive to that. So just throwing that out there. I would love to hear you two collaborate on a show.
Yeah, I would too.
Well, there you go. Well, we're getting close to our hour. I just have one more question.
Yes.
Of course, we already know that DC and I like the record quite a bit. Why did you do a remake of I'm Your Captain Closer to Home? I'm just curious.
This whole record, Grant, is done. The tuning standard for the United States is A440.
I had that. I wanted to bring that up with you.
Yes.
A440. Okay. But that was only since 1953 Rockefeller changed it from 432 to 440. Why? I couldn't tell you. I could speculate, though.
Anything involving Rockefeller.
It
just seems so bizarre, though, Mark. Seems bizarre
about that. But this whole album is done in 432. And specifically, I wanted to do I'm Your Captain Closer to Home in 432 because the original version was cut in 440, since this tuning standard has been, 440 since 1953. So now it is in a compatible, a very, it's compatible with natural things, especially water. 432, and we are 80-90% water, our bodies. So 432 is reaching into places that 440 couldn't reach. I'm talking, frequencies, and there's something special about the solfeggio scale and the frequencies that change the sand on a metal plate into a design. Have you seen any of that?
I've seen that. I've seen videos of that.
And you look at it and you think that's a sound that is doing that. That is a frequency that God created, and here it is showing itself in this design, and it's perfect. I mean, perfect. So I wanted to do the 432 thing, and finally, here's an opportunity, you guys. That was my motivator, and to my home, it's me saying, I am who my songs say I am. Nobody else is. Nobody else is.
Yeah.
A tune that's touched so many people's hearts and means so much to so many people, Mark. Man, you got to just, I would be so overjoyed with what you've brought to so many through your music. Closer to Home was a song that resonated with so many of the soldiers of the Vietnam era and people in general. I mean, people can approach that song and those lyrics and apply them in a myriad of different human instances. So again, hats off, sir.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Awesome. So on that note, we might as well wrap this dog up. I do want to, Closer Home will be out Friday. Where can everybody get it?
Right now, you can go to markfarner.com, and if you purchase a pre-order, if you do a pre-order, you get a signed, autographed by yours truly, LP or CD, which has the bonus track, Friends Forever, written by Jim Peterik and myself.
Oh, we didn't even get to that. We were wanting to talk about it, but we only have a limited time here.
Oh, we got a couple minutes. Have you known Jim for a long time? How did he become involved in the record? Just curious.
I met Jim on the Moody Blues cruise, and of course the Ides of March were on there. We got talking, and he said, Mark, I'd like to have you come and play on some of my world tour gigs. And I looked it up, and I told him, yeah, man, you just say the word, I will be there. So we started working together, and I come in as a special guest on the world tour. Yeah. And so we got to knowing each other, and I got to loving on him because of his, he's just down here on earth with the rest of us guys. He's not a high-minded person. He doesn't think too much of himself. He's a humble guy, and I love that. He purposed in his heart to remain humble, and he's doing a damn good job of it. So when I heard this song, and I was down at his studio, he says, I'm writing this song, and as he's playing it, and I'm hearing some lyrics, and I expressed them to Jim, and he's going, oh yeah, man, that we need to use that on this verse. And we started doing, he says, do you want to put a vocal down on that? I said, yeah, man. So anyway, I do this vocal at Peterik's place, and his son played the drums on it. Scott May played the organ, but Peterik played the keyboards, and Peterik played a lead guitar on this. But I ended up playing bass, and when Slaughter said, man, if they can send me the tracks, I can EQ it to match the EQ that we have on this album. It'll blend a lot better. So that's what they did. They sent what they call the stems. They sent the stems to Slaughter, and I played the bass over the top of that because I have a different feel for bass. I'm from Flint, Michigan, you guys. Man, I got the Motown
bass on here, ladies and gentlemen. Playing bass on this.
Yes.
So,
So
Mark, I got a quick story about you with Jim. Do you remember? It was probably the first show that all of you guys did post lockdown. It was in Decatur, Illinois, at an outdoor venue where it was about 40 degrees outside. My wife and I went to that show. Thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, but we froze our asses off. But it was a great show. I don't know if you remember it. And it was a cold night.
shows like that, Daryl.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, we could yap for another hour, but Mark, this has been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I will put the link.
Appreciate
I will
it.
put the link down below. Everybody, go. Please do yourself a favor. Go to Mark's site. Order this. Order the LP. Order the CD. Whatever. And support Mark because he's back. Not that he ever left. He's here. But man,
No, he's
this
been
is a
here.
great record. Please
you.
do yourself a favor. DC and I are just like giddy schoolgirls over here.
Oh my God. You can't believe toes curled up in my shoes for 2 weeks here.
So, Mark, if you ever want to come back, and
Yeah,
talk
we'd
about
love to
it,
have you.
more than happy to have you back.
All right.
And real quick, what about touring for this record when this comes out?
They are putting together a tour right now. TKO is my agency. Jim Lynn's my agent. Avi Steinman, my manager. They have worked it out where on some of these gigs that are coming up in the spring and throughout next summer, we are going to have the portable Vietnam Veterans Monument, the wall, with us. So people they don't have to go to DC, or maybe they, wanted to and they couldn't afford to or whatever. Now we're going to have it with us on a few of these gigs that we can set it up. And I'm very proud to be able to bring it with me because of those men and women, our veterans from Vietnam era.
Apropos. That's awesome.
Awesome. All right, everybody. New record out Friday. I'm going to get this up. This will be up tomorrow. Check it out. Buy it. Mark, thank you so much for coming on and talking with DC and I because I'm a relatively new fan.
Well, I
A
appreciate
long-time fan, 1970.
See, he's proud of that.
I am.
All right, everybody. Please like, subscribe if you haven't. Check out Mark's new record. That's all I can say. DC, anything else?
This has been a thrill of a lifetime. If you would have told a 13-year-old Daryl back in 70, he'd one time be interviewing Mark Farner, my brain would have been, ow. But it's happening. It's happened. And thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Mark. Appreciate it.
my pleasure, boys. If I don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Well, if you come around here, I will check out you on tour.
Yeah.
And
my wife and I will as well, Mark.
Yeah, give me a holler. You got the numbers. You got Melissa's number. You give me a holler, and I'll put you on the VIP, and I'll treat you so many different ways. One of them I have to be right.
All right, cool. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. See you, Mark. We'll be in contact.
See you, Mark.
Bye for now.
Good night.